I never thought I'd be the kind of person to go to war with my Homeowners Association, but here we are. It all started 3 months ago when I received a notice that my driveway violated community standards. You see, I live in Pine Valley Estates, one of those neighborhoods where everyone's house looks exactly the same, and the HOA board acts like they're running a small country. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to go to war with my Homeowners Association, but here we are. It all started 3 months ago when I received a notice that my driveway violated community standards. You see, I live in Pine Valley Estates, one of those neighborhoods where everyone's house looks exactly the same, and the HOA board acts like they're running a small country. I'd lived here peacefully for 5 years, minding my own business, keeping my lawn at exactly 2.5 inches as per regulation, and never once painting my door an unauthorized shade of brown. The problem started when I got a promotion at work that required me to be on call for emergencies. I'm a veterinary surgeon, and sometimes animals need urgent care in the middle of the night. Karen Thompson, our HOA president, took issue with my work vehicle being parked in my driveway. It's a regular SUV, just with my clinic's logo on the side. According to her, business vehicles weren't allowed to be visible from the street, as they destroyed the residential character of our community. I tried explaining that I needed quick access to my vehicle for emergencies, but Karen wouldn't budge. She started sending me daily violation notices, each carrying a $50 fine. When I ignored them, she escalated to having traffic cones placed at the end of my driveway every morning, blocking my car in. Her cronies on the board would place them there at 6 a.m. sharp, claiming it was part of some ongoing community maintenance project. That's when I decided to get creative. You see, before becoming a vet, I spent 3 years studying engineering in college. I might not have finished that degree, but I learned enough to know that sometimes the best solution isn't the most obvious one. Plus, I had a good friend, Mike, who worked in construction and owed me a favor after I saved his dog from a nasty case of chocolate poisoning. I spent a week researching local building codes and HOA regulations. While they had rules about practically everything, they had somehow forgotten to regulate one crucial thing: vertical modifications to driveways. There was nothing in the bylaws about ramps. This is where things got interesting. I hired Mike's construction company over a weekend, and we got to work. Remember those cones they kept putting at the end of my driveway? Well, we built a ramp right where they usually placed them. Not just any ramp, a beautifully constructed, completely up-to-code concrete ramp that would let me drive right over any obstacles they put in my way. The ramp wasn't huge, only about 8 inches high, but it was wide enough for my SUV and engineered to perfection. We painted it the exact shade of gray specified in the HOA guidelines for driveways, added safety markings as required by local building codes, and even installed small drainage channels to prevent water pooling. Everything was done by the book. The best part? I made sure to file all the proper permits with the city before construction. I even had an engineer certify that it wouldn't interfere with any utilities or cause drainage issues. The cherry on top was installing motion-activated security cameras to record everything that happened near my driveway. Monday morning came, and I was ready. I got up early and watched through my window as Karen and her husband George approached with their usual traffic cones. The look on their faces when they saw my new ramp was priceless. Karen's mouth dropped open so wide I thought she might dislocate her jaw. George dropped his cone in shock. Within an hour, I had 3 HOA board members on my doorstep, waving papers and shouting about violations. Karen's face was so red I worried she might need medical attention. "This is unacceptable," she screamed. "You need board approval for any modifications." I calmly pulled out my folder of documentation. "Actually," I said, "I've reviewed our bylaws thoroughly. There's nothing specifically prohibiting ramps, and I have all the necessary city permits right here." I handed them copies of everything: permits, engineering certifications, and even a safety inspection report. They stormed off to consult with the HOA lawyer. I knew they would, and I knew what their lawyer would tell them. I had done everything legally and by the book. The ramp violated no HOA regulations because they had never thought to make any rules about ramps. Sometimes the best loopholes are the ones nobody thinks to close. The next few weeks were pure entertainment. The HOA board tried everything they could think of to make me remove the ramp. First, they claimed it was a safety hazard, but my safety certification and inspection reports shut that down quickly. Then they tried arguing it affected property values, but my neighbors, many of whom had their own issues with Karen, started coming to my defense. What really changed the game was when old Mrs. Peterson from across the street had a medical emergency. The ambulance needed to park in her driveway, but Karen's maintenance crew had placed their usual cones there too. The paramedic simply used my ramp to drive over the cones, saving precious minutes. After that incident, the neighborhood opinion shifted dramatically in my favor. The HOA board called an emergency meeting to discuss my ramp. I attended with my documentation in hand and my lawyer on speed dial. The meeting room was packed. Apparently, I wasn't the only resident fed up with the board's excessive control. One by one, neighbors stood up to share stories about Karen's ridiculous rules and fines. Tom from 2 doors down talked about being fined for having a bird feeder that was 2 inches taller than regulation. Sarah from the cul-de-sac shared how she got weekly violations for her daughter's chalk drawings on their own driveway. The meeting quickly turned into a referendum on the HOA's leadership rather than my ramp. The best moment came when Karen tried to propose a new rule specifically banning ramps. That's when my lawyer friend, who I'd helped with his cat's surgery, pointed out that changing the bylaws required a 75% vote from all homeowners. Looking around the room full of frustrated neighbors, Karen finally realized she had lost this battle. The aftermath was better than I could have imagined. Within a month, Karen resigned from the HOA board, claiming she needed to focus on her garden. The new board, led by Mike's wife Sarah, yes, the same Mike who helped build my ramp, took a much more reasonable approach to community management. The first thing the new board did was eliminate most of the petty fines and restrictions. They kept the essential rules about property maintenance but dropped the ridiculous micromanaging. The traffic cones disappeared, and people actually started enjoying living in our neighborhood again. My ramp became something of a local legend. Other neighborhoods with HOA problems started asking for advice about standing up to unreasonable boards. A local news station even did a small feature about it, calling it, "The Little Ramp That Could." The publicity forced several other HOAs in the area to revise their aggressive enforcement policies. As for me, I kept the ramp. It's actually pretty useful, especially during winter when the plows push snow to the end of driveways. Some kids in the neighborhood use it for their bikes, with their parents' permission and under supervision, of course, and I've added some nice landscaping around it. It's become a symbol of standing up to unreasonable authority. Karen still lives in the neighborhood, but she crosses the street whenever she sees me coming. Last week, I saw her get a delivery from a landscaping company, and guess what? Their truck used my ramp to get around some construction work at the end of her driveway. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The best part of this whole story isn't just that I won my battle with the HOA. It's that our community became a better place to live. People started talking to their neighbors again, kids play outside more often, and we even started having regular neighborhood cookouts. Sometimes it takes a small act of rebellion, or in my case, a carefully engineered concrete ramp, to bring people together. And those traffic cones? I kept one as a souvenir. It sits in my garage as a reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with unreasonable rules is to think outside the box, or in this case, over it.